All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're unpacking a massive corporate turf war that's unfolding right this very second over the most popular AI agent platform in history. In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what's happening between two absolute titans in artificial intelligence. And more importantly, we'll see how their battle over an open source tool called OpenClaw is fundamentally going to change the way you and I interact with our tech. So, I've got a question for you. Who actually controls the AI running your life in the background? It's a huge question, and the answer is right at the center of a high-stakes standoff between OpenAI and Anthropic. You see, we're moving way beyond the days of just chatting with an AI. We're entering an era where AI agents act autonomously on our behalf, and whoever controls that underlying infrastructure, well, they hold the keys to the entire future. Here's what we're covering today. 1. The rise of OpenClaw. 2. Anthropic closes the door. 3. OpenAI's strategic countermove. 4. The security reality check. And 5. What this means for you. All right, Section 1. The rise of OpenClaw. The speed of all this is just staggering. I mean, picture this. November 2025, a developer named Peter Steinberger, who, by the way, had already sold a software company for a cool $100 million, is sitting in a Madrid cafe. He's just messing around with some AI coding tools, and he builds a local background-running AI agent. He originally called it Claude, and it even had this little lobster mascot. Well, Anthropic wasn't having it. They filed a trademark complaint because it sounded way too much like their AI Claude. So the name changes to OpenClaw, but they actually kept the lobster mascot. Fast forward literally just a few months, and this side project turns into an all-out tech battleground. Steinberger gets scooped up by OpenAI, Anthropic totally blocks access, and OpenAI fires right back. So why are these mega corporations going to war over this? Well, look at the sheer scale here. 3.2 million users. Actually, scratch that. It's not just the users. OpenClaw racked up 346,000 GitHub stars in under 5 months. It absolutely shattered the 10-year GitHub record held by the React framework, and it did it in just 60 days. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang literally called it the most popular open source project in the history of humanity. No big deal, right? It clearly became the infrastructure layer for AI agents, and Silicon Valley instantly realized that future business models would have to be built around it, not just on top of it. Which brings us to Section 2. Anthropic closes the door. Let's look at why Anthropic suddenly cut off access for millions of eager developers. It comes down to a massive financial dilemma. Previously, people were hooking up third-party tools like OpenClaw to their standard $20 a month Claude Pro subscriptions. But autonomous agents aren't like you or me just typing a question to a chat box. They're running constantly in the background, firing off thousands of tasks every single day. If you pay per token, which is basically a tiny fraction of a word in AI processing terms, that sheer volume costs anywhere from $50 to $200 a month or even more. So allowing users to funnel thousands of background tasks through a flat $20 consumer subscription, it was just completely financially unsustainable for Anthropic. And this right here is where we see two totally opposing game plans. Anthropic is playing defense. They looked at OpenAI, saw a massive cost black hole, and decided to protect their margins. They started strictly enforcing their terms of service to block that heavy agent access. OpenAI, on the other hand, went purely on the offense. They looked at the exact same product and saw an unbelievable distribution opportunity. They decided, you know what? We'll absorb the compute costs if it means locking in that massive user base. One company locked the door, and the other just handed out the master key. All right, moving on to Section 3, OpenAI's strategic countermove. This is honestly a brilliant Trojan horse play. At 2:33 in the morning on May 2nd, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman drops this post on X. It's literally just a handful of words and a joke about a lobster. But do not let the casual vibe fool you. This was highly calculated. OpenAI didn't build the most popular AI agent in the world. Instead, they just hired the guy who did, backed the independent foundation running it, and then simply opened up their own login to it. They made the ChatGPT subscription the default authentication and billing layer for the whole OpenClaw ecosystem. What we're looking at here is a classic subsidized hardware strategy. Think about how cell phone carriers will hand you a wildly expensive smartphone for basically free just to lock you into a juicy multi-year network contract. It's exactly like that. OpenAI is giving away the incredibly expensive compute access required to run an autonomous agent, totally absorbing the financial hit. Why? Specifically to lock millions of OpenClaw users securely into the ChatGPT ecosystem for the long haul. Here's how it actually works under the hood. You basically run a quick setup wizard in OpenClaw that acts as a secure digital handshake, an OAuth link, to log right into your OpenAI account. This explicitly allows your standard ChatGPT Plus subscription to cover OpenClaw usage, tapping into OpenAI's absolute highest-end coding brains, and it completely bypasses those unpredictable per-token fees we talked about earlier. OpenAI is betting the farm that keeping these users locked inside their ecosystem is ultimately worth way more than the compute costs they're eating today. But before we get too carried away, we need to talk about Section 4, the security reality check. Because let's be real, this incredibly powerful ecosystem, it is still totally the Wild West. Tying your billing systems to a massive open-source tool carries immense risk. Just look at this list of security failures. We're talking about a critical vulnerability that allowed malicious websites to silently execute dangerous code right on a user's machine. Security researchers dug in and found over 800 confirmed malicious skills floating around in the OpenClaw marketplace. There was a huge breach that exposed 1.5 million API tokens and private conversations. And, no joke, there are actual reports of agents literally going rogue and spamming people's contacts on iMessage. Cybersecurity experts are calling this the lethal trifecta. Why? Because the agent has access to your private data, it can communicate with the outside world, and it is actively exposed to untrusted content. Yes, the current versions are patched, but so many users are still running older versions, which means this remains a massive, ongoing risk. Okay, let's bring it all home with Section 5, what this means for you. Let's strip away all the corporate maneuvering and the security drama. What is actually in this for regular folks? Well, it basically all boils down to $23 a month. That is $20 for your ChatGPT Plus subscription, plus $3 for OpenClaw Launch Lite, which is basically a hosted management layer to make things easy. For exactly $23 a month, literally anyone can now have a fully autonomous personal assistant without stressing over hundreds of dollars in unpredictable API fees. They have essentially taken enterprise-level automation and dropped it right down to a consumer price tag. And the crazy part? The whole process is incredibly simple now. You literally do not need to know a single line of code. You just buy the subscription, hook it up to the Launch Lite interface, and your agent just goes to work. Peter Steinberger, the creator, even came out and explicitly said that his next mission at OpenAI is to build an agent that his mom can use. That's the goal. Everyday users are already letting this tool completely clear out their inboxes, make restaurant reservations, check them in for flights, and manage all their chats across apps like Slack, WhatsApp, and Telegram. Because honestly, this right here is the real game changer for regular folks. The biggest bottleneck in our daily productivity was never just clicking the buttons or typing out responses. That's what, maybe 5% of the actual work? 95% of our digital lives is just knowing what needs to be done and coordinating all those incredibly tedious tasks across a dozen different apps. OpenClaw acts like an executive project manager for your life, autonomously handling that 95% of coordination quietly in the background. So, I want to leave you with a thought to chew on as we wrap up this explainer. If OpenAI's massive distribution gamble actually pays off, ChatGPT becomes the default intelligence layer for an entire generation of autonomous agents running our lives. But when AI agents seamlessly manage our entire digital existence and do it all from within a single, highly subsidized ecosystem, are we the empowered users, or are we just becoming the product? It's an absolutely incredible time for technology, bringing us wild levels of convenience, but it sure brings up some profound questions about lock-in and control. Thanks for hanging out with me to untangle all this. I hope it helped make sense of the great AI agent war. Catch you next time.